doing? And this is the last introduction we're going to do before February. And February, as everybody knows, is the month of Hacked. So we are really not that far away from, being ready to go, being ready to start the hackathon. I'm just quickly putting chat into my menu bar here, so excuse me whilst I do that. There we go. So hello everyone. Woo, let's go, Tim. Thank you ever so much, Tim. And there was me saying hello to everyone. So yeah, I can't believe it. Time flies, hey. And we are 23 days until the officially open Hacked. And this is not going to be a super long session today. I will be monitoring chat, so if there's anything you want to say, please dive in there and ask questions, because we're now not just looking at the technical side of, hey, if I'm going to build something in a hackathon, what do I want to do? We're actually going to start looking at things like, hey, how do I, with a group of people, manage making sure that we build something by the end of the project, by the end of the hack, which is obviously 3 days long. So we're going to cover really super simple project management. There's no point in going in and creating all of these agile methodologies when ultimately we've got to move at pace. Although I'm sure many people would say that is agile. We're going to really make it super simple, something all of the team can work together on, and be able to take on board, and ultimately everyone can get involved in and work with. So we're going to discuss general project management, and we're going to use a simple, almost Kanban ticketing system of to do, doing, done, and blocked. And then we're going to talk about stand-ups as well. So just to give you a bit of an overview of Hacked when it first starts. Um, by the time you get into Hacked, you will know who your team is. You will have worked together on, once we give you the project spec of the general idea of the direction of what you need to build. You will have chosen a project that you want to build, and when you come in on the first day in the morning, there'll be some time for you as a team to actually prepare your project, to prepare all of the items that need to happen in order over those 3 days, it's 2.5 really of building, to be able to have that project done. So the first morning really you're going to be spending, or the first couple of hours, is actually creating these little jobs and putting them first of all in the to-do, and then as the teams separate, whether you're on front end, back end, design, data, or project management slash presentation, you're going to have to define what are the things that you need to do through those 2 days. What are all of the things that are going to have to come together? How do these teams communicate with each other? How does, if you're doing a front end, how does the data you push in the front end go to the back end? What's the JSON structure of that when you're putting information back? How do they work together? All of those little tasks end up becoming what we call a ticket, and we're going to have some post-it notes for you to be able to write all of those down. So without further ado, what I will do is I'll just quickly show you just a basic setup of this doing, to do, doing, done. So as I say, the first thing you come in, effectively, you're going to want to create all of these tickets. Now, you may have heard of the concept when you're doing project management of t-shirt sizing or point scoring, of, a 1 point ticket being something that's really quick and really easy to do. It might take 15-20 minutes. Or, a 100 point ticket, which is really bad, but a huge amount of work that needs to go into it. One of the things I would say is the first time that you enter that room, when you're all sitting down together, really try and keep these tickets to the maximum of a slice of work that's going to take an hour. And the reason that you want to really keep those little ticket sizes down to the maximum of an hour is, if you think about over the 3 days, you've really only got around 20 hours worth of actual project building. And if you have a ticket that's, say, 3 hours long, how do you manage that progression through the project? do you have any dependencies that might be leading on to that? If you make that ticket too big and that dependency is right at the end, you're not going to physically have time to, one, understand whether it works or if there's some user acceptance testing that needs to happen within that ticket. All the other dependencies that fall off the back of it could be delayed by a significant amount of time because the ticket's so big. But also, really, it allows you to see how the project's progressing by keeping smaller little actions that need to happen and moving them through to do, doing, and done. So the real bit of advice when you first get in there as a team is separate out into those teams. You know, what do we need? Do we need a front end team? Do we need a back end team? Do we need an AI team? Do we need a design team? We need to have presenters. You know, we should all have our roles really sorted before we get there, hopefully. But if not, and there's some discussion around that, making sure you ring your teams, and then your teams are working on those tickets, and everyone has a fair share of those tickets to do through the time as well. So I've created a couple of to do, doing, and done's just to give you an idea of simple things that can happen for it. So let's take it from done, obviously, at this point here. So one of the first things you might do is you've got your idea, okay, we know we're going to be building a weather app that brings data in from an API and it sends a warning to the Raspberry Pi, which flashes red when rain's about to happen, because maybe you want to use that for farmers that need to, you know, they've got something out in the fields that can't get wet. So effectively, once the relative humidity rises or when rain's forecast, it flashes red, so it gives them a signal, go and get the stuff in. That might be an example project. But the first thing the front end team is like, actually, is there even a front end? What does that even look like? If someone was to log in and have to get it remotely because they aren't in their field, you know, what does that look like? How do I maybe set it up so that there's SMS messages that I can just sign up to, it pushes its back end? If there is some wireframes that need to be designed for this project, I imagine the front end team will probably like, actually, what does that look like? And one of the first things that probably take about an hour is really simply just being like, right, first hour after we start project management is let's get those wireframes done. And hopefully by this point, you have a big board, or on your table, you have a big table with to do, doing, done set out on the front. And as that ticket progresses, someone else in the team will look at it and go, absolutely, yep, signing that off, that's done. Project manager, we've done ticket 1A, whatever you want to call it. We've done wireframe ticket, that's gone into done. At that point, as a team, you go back to your whole to-do list, pick up a ticket literally and just move it into doing. What's the next dependency that sits off the back of that? Well, I might want to create all of the framework, but it might be a style sheet. One of the team members might be doing a style sheet. So it's like, great, wireframes are done. I'm going to start working on the styling for that to make sure that layout is correct. And literally, you as a team are going into what is the to-do list. Now, a few things you might want to do, for example, is you might want to number them. So actually, this is for the front end team. So this might be FE1. And actually, we know that creating a style sheet is the next thing that needs to happen thereafter. So some project managers will set it up so the dependencies are linked, right? So actually, if front end one is the first thing that needs to happen, I don't even have to think about the next project dependency that I have to get off of that. All I need to do is just go get front end two, and that's absolutely fine. Cool. Then, of course, you're going to still have your to-do bucket. Sorry, just thinking about it. And you're going to want to go and get front end three. And I imagine this is probably the project management style that you're using already in your projects. But again, just to sort of set an expectation about what we're doing at Hacked and the way that we think project management for Hackathon should work is like this. Again, this might be your data team. So this might be backend one. Outline the data structures for the project. What data are we going to need? What does it look like in Supabase? Then two, just create the database in Supabase. Again, that might need to be like a really small 5-10 minute ticket. Then there's B2. And then ultimately from that, right now we've got our data sets, we've got our data headings. We as a team, we're going to create a synthetic data set. And that might be for something like, if I was going to do a customer service app, maybe, that has loads of different customer complaints. I think we talked about that last time. I'm now going to go away as a team and create a synthetic data set. And again, maximum that should take is about an hour. And then the next thing that's the dependency off of that might be, okay, I'm now going to import, I'm going to review that. So that might be another ticket. Review the synthetic data set. Does it make sense? Will you be able to make assumptions off the back of it? Um, and the next one might be I'm going to import that into Supabase, and then that's the next step. Probably the most important thing here, and when we go through stand-ups in a second, is the concept of blockers. So you might be writing, actually, I'm doing the next ticket along which B3 is in place, but actually I've realized that I can't put the data into the database because I'm still waiting for that synthetic data set to be created. So creating a blocker list, or even if that blocker might be, I technically don't know how to do this thing. I have no idea how to um, create that synthetic data set because I missed that lesson, or I don't know if there's another way for me to add 400 rows because I think that that would give a much nicer data set. Just anything that you're worried about that might block you from being able to complete your ticket, write it down and put it in a blockers list. The reason is that it might be a blocker that you can see maybe 10 tickets away. So you're thinking, actually, this is how the process is going. Oh, one of the blockers is we don't have an API that can do that. So we're going to stick that in the blocker list because then the whole team is aware of like, oh, when I've got some free time, maybe I could check out that. I mean, that should probably be a ticket at that point, right? Like find the API. But having that as a blocker and just a real thing of like, this is some technical issue that we have to overcome, or this person over here is going to hold up me being able to do that thing, is really, really important. And the reason it's important is not only do you as a team understand and are aware of these blockers that are going to be stopping you, um, but also you might be in a situation where your mentor or a passing mentor is like, oh, actually, hey, someone's got this blocker. Why don't we sit down as a team and discuss it? And again, on that front, what you might want to put down here is awaiting the JSON from the data team to be able to put that into a GPT prompt. This is the AI team. So this is actually AI 5 when we're going to need that because we can create all of the other prompt stuff first, but actually having the JSON variables to be able to put that in is something that we're going to need. I know that's coming down the track, so you can sort of start talking between the two teams. Hey, data team, when are you going to have that JSON structure so I can actually pull that when I'm sending out my GPT prompt? And just having visibility of that as a team and working out those blockers means that it's something we're all aware about and we can discuss either in stand-ups, as I say, or not. So does anyone have any questions about the concept of to do, doing, and done? I'm going to leave it out there because I know there can sometimes be a little bit of a delay, but I'll keep that open there for you. Really, really simple. Remember, hackathons are going to be, by their very nature, they're going to move quickly. Stuff's going to change. Your priorities are going to change. Something might change in the build, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, remember, this is a learning experience, and the truth is, when you are developing or building something, stuff changes, stuff breaks, stuff happens, and just keeping on top of that to do list keeps you and your mentor and your coaches fully aware of what needs to happen, what needs to be built, and those blockers about, hey, this is where I'm gonna struggle, or I can see something coming around the corner that's going to be a bit like, well, we need to put a little bit of extra thought into that, or when we start getting close to that, actually say maybe to the data team, can you move something forward? Toby, really good question. What would I do? I would actually manage it. We're going to provide sticky notes. I would do it on your team table. So I would actually have it so that's a base when you do your stand up. And we'll talk about stand ups in a second. That it's a physical, tangible thing. I'm actually physical because we want to celebrate those duns as well, right? The whole point in the hackathon is like the whole team's going to be working towards this project, and every time you move something from doing to done, you're one step closer to building the thing. So I would actually physically be writing all of these post-it notes out as a team. You can use Figma, which is I'm using now. I think you're doubling up when if you were doing it that way. Whilst it's great, the team can be dispersed if you're doing it on Figma and moving it across. I believe, the whole point of being together at the hackathon is it's physical. So having that physically laid out would be really cool. But ultimately, and this is the great thing, is like I don't know. I we're giving you the tools, and it's how the team and how you as a team want to manage that. So you can get a free Figma account as a team if you want to do it that way. We can show you how to set that up on the day, I'm sure. Or you can use the physical methodology as well. But either of those two ways, and it's what works for you and your team. So that's the way it would go. But thanks ever so much, Toby. Really, really great question there. So you're in the hackathon, you've got your to-do list, stuff's getting done, stuff's in the doing pile, you've got some blockers. One of the things that's really, really important as well is the team stand up. The team stand up, and we have them in our business, we have them in pretty much every business I've worked in, is an opportunity for everyone to get together, to take that time as a group to really communicate about what's going on, where you are in the project, what the blockers are. But the great thing about stand-ups is um, the dopamine hit of moving a big task is done and everyone's celebrating together. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, Tim, you're absolutely right. But the thing I was going to say is the great thing about stand-ups is um, there's a real quick definition. So they don't have to be big, they don't have to be long, but there's a time for everyone to come together and discuss what's going on. So it's really, really simple stand ups. There's just three things that you have to communicate to your team. Since the last stand up, and we've set times in the project and through the hack for everyone to come together and have these stand ups. You'll look around the room and there'll be nine other teams and they will be doing their stand ups. And you can actually physically stand up, and I recommend it, but again, it's personal to your team. Of taking that moment to physically stand up as a team and go around and you answer three things. What have I done? Okay, since the last time we stood up and had a stand up, I've done the wireframes. We've worked together on approving those. We had to change a couple of them because we realised that there was nowhere for the farmer to put their phone number for the text message to be sent out. So we've changed that, we've reworked that, and we've put it in. Next, actually, I've realised that we do it in the wrong order. So we ask them for their phone number first, which seems a bit weird. We should probably ask for their name first because then when the data structure goes down, it follows like a nice clean data structure. So actually, we're going to ask for name first. So focusing on next is just reworking that in the actual build and the design files. But the reason I'm blocked is uh, I don't know whether it needs to. I don't know whether the data team can tell me if I need to put +44 in the number first, or if I can just put 0 in and that'll work. So at the moment, I'm blocked on that to be able to design it and give the user a little bit of guidance on how to put their number in. And that's literally a stand up because you've identified it. Obviously, with the blocker, the one thing that the project manager will probably do is make sure that blocker is noted and put it on there. So then someone from the data team can just come over straight after and go, oh hey, yeah, I see you're blocked on that. It needs to be +44 or 0 first. So I've passed that over to you. Let's both agree to take that off of the block now. We're going to throw that in the bin. So that block has been removed for you. Everyone just goes around in the team and goes through those things and addresses those blockers. You don't necessarily, and it depends on the team if you want to. You can discuss blockers at that point, or you can leave them out there and the project manager will just put them on the board, and then you have the opportunity to go round quicker. But it depends again on how you as a team want to manage that. So don't feel that there's an absolute hard and fast way of this is how it must be done, but ultimately making sure what you've done, what you're focusing on next, and what's your blockers. And I think the real great thing about that is everybody has a role to play in these teams, right? Everybody has something that they contribute and something they bring to the organization of in this hackathon, so that's good. Everyone gets to be heard, which is really, really important. And also from the mentor and the coach's point of view, it's like they really get to understand what the big blockers are because their job and their role is to really support you to get that project done. And they want to hear this stuff, right? They want to know what you've been working on. They want to know if you're stuck anywhere. They want to be able to support you, and that's what stand-ups do. So it's a super quick lesson today. Um, Running a hackathon project should not be an arduous task. It should not be like, oh, we need a whole person just running on admin because no, you're building, it's changing, and stuff's moving. So following these easy steps of having a project list, having it all broken down, having it into doing, done, and blocked, and then taking the time for the time we've set aside to run your stand-ups effectively is super, super important. I'm going to hang on for a couple of minutes in case anyone else has got any questions. Um, and again, if your team aren't super aware, there'll be an information pack that we'll put on the tables about running stand-ups. The mentors will be aware about how we run stand-ups. And if this is your first time, like having to scope out a project, don't worry, there'll be people on the team that have done it before. They might ask questions of you in the team. They might work with you on being able to put that together. Don't feel you have to. It might be your first ever stand-up, right? I've never done stand-up before. People aren't there judging you on how good your ticket writing is or how good your stand-ups are or the fact that you've got blockers. That is absolutely not what it's about. It's about bringing the team together and solving problems together. And, if you're going into tech, you're going to have many, 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 many more stand-ups. And great, like this is what it's about. It's about learning this information, learning these processes, learning together, and it's okay to get it wrong. I don't think you will. I think it's pretty straightforward, and I think you'll be fine. But if you've got that worry about this is my first time ever doing it, don't worry. No one's judging you on if you get it right or wrong or how great your stand-up was. All everyone there is to learn together and have and share that experience together. So don't worry about it. If you've never done it before, this is your time to do it. Awesome. I don't think there's any questions in the chat now. So thanks everyone for taking the time out to join us today. As I say, the countdown is absolutely on now. We are 20 days from Hacked, and we can be more excited. See you there.